What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Kenny here. In this video, I want to discuss the importance of staying physically fit as a young man, specifically in the trades, okay? I work a manual labor job, construction. All right, I'll just put it like that because we basically do everything when it comes to home remodeling, putting up new houses, framing, roofing, you name it, we're doing it, all right? Siding, whatever. Ripping out bathrooms, putting new ones in, whatever you can think of along the lines of home remodeling, that's what we do. And this job, I would say just from working it for the past year and 8 months, I think it's been, 80% of this job is just moving and handling material. So much so that I guess you could say the public perception of working construction or a manual labor job, that's what, most people that work office jobs, that's what they call construction, right? They just call it a manual labor job. Got a plane flying overhead here. Hopefully it's not drowning out my voice. But most office workers and just people who don't work trades, they'll say manual labor, right? Because that's the truth of it. 80% of the job, 80% of the time, we're moving and handling material, right? The other 20%, you're installing it, whatever. But most of the time, we're moving heavy things around, right? A bundle of shingles, it weighs 80 pounds. Most bags of cement, 80 pounds as well. A sheet of plywood, if you're doing 3/4, not only is it pretty heavy, right? 3/4 plywood's pretty heavy. It's awkward. It's a 4x8 sheet. It's awkward. You got to carry it up a ladder if you don't have a power ladder, which most of the time we're not using the power ladder because you're just going up on like the roof of a ranch or whatever, a short house, and you don't really need it. You don't want to go through the trouble of setting it up. You're carrying a lot of heavy and awkward things around. Things that most people, who work office jobs or whatever, administrative jobs, they're not doing. So the public perception of a construction job is you don't need to work out, right? You don't need to work out outside of work to stay in shape. But if that is the case, then why are most construction workers, even ones who I work with, so out of shape? It's a question to ask, right? Why are most of them fat? All right. And it's because doing the work doesn't just get you in shape. You might be able to get by just doing construction, manual labor your whole life and eating decently, okay? Eating fairly decently. You don't eat crazy strict, right? You're not eating beef and rice every meal and eggs. You might be able to get by, right? But soon enough, your body is going to wear down, right? And most guys who work in trades, they're alcoholics, right? Some use drugs, most use drugs, hate to say it. They hate their lives, they hate their wives, they yell and scream all day. It's not a fancy, fun, lively atmosphere, all right? Everyone's rushing. Most of those guys are out of the trades, by their late 30s, early 40s, whatever. The reason is they don't stay in shape. They hate their lives, right? They don't eat right. They're alcoholics. We all know what alcohol does to the body, the brain. We all know by now. If you don't, you're living under a rock. But even guys who work trades, they hear a young guy who they're working with is working out on top of it. They're like, that's too much, right? It's too much. No, it's not. Okay, if you're eating right, if you're getting enough rest, recovery, sleep, we all need it, and you're lifting at least 3 days a week, you're not going to fall apart, all right? You're actually going to be stronger, okay? Because when your body is put into those awkward situations, like I was saying before, let's say you're carrying that 3/4 sheet of plywood up a ladder, or you're framing, you have a beam, you're trying to get it up in the slot. when you're in those awkward positions, you know, you're like kind of halfway hanging off a ladder, holding something very heavy. If you don't work out and you don't have that muscle built up in those areas that you're using, you're going to get injured. You know, sooner or later, you are going to injure yourself, which gives you all the more reason to work out. And again, you don't have to do bodybuilding, you know, 5 days a week. Some guys do 6 days. If you're working manual labor, that's probably too much. But you really only have to stay in shape 3 days a week. Go to the gym 2-3 days a week, watch what you eat, and you're gonna feel a lot better than if you're just working the construction job, you know, eating. And most guys, you know, that work the trades, they eat like crap, right? They just eat the worst things imaginable, you know, just like all these carbs and sugar, and then they're, you know, drinking and doing drugs on top of that, you know, vaping or whatever, which is a drug, right? Nicotine is a drug. And it just leads to burnout, which leads me to the biggest reason for making this video. If you are young, like me, and you're working the trades, and you like it, you know, the atmosphere, the people surrounding you can be tough sometimes, but you really enjoy it, you know, and you see a future in it, the best thing you can do is stay in shape. Because if you're not hitting the gym, your body's not up to par with the workload required for the job, you can get seriously injured. And then you can't work, you can't provide for your family, you can be out just like that. As quick as that, you know, you can be out. Okay, I've seen it before. And most companies that do trade work, right, construction, whatever, plumbing, you know, just construction, I'll say, they're small family-owned businesses, or just small businesses. They can't really afford the benefits, so once you're out of work, it's tough to get by. And this is not even including accidents. Accidents can happen any day, right? You can get injured, put out of work any day if you're not being careful, or if people around you are not being careful. But worrying about the controllables here, what you can control, is your own body. You know, staying in shape, staying mentally strong as well. If you're eating right, you know, working out, staying in shape, getting enough sleep, you're going to be a lot, you know, more mentally sharp than guys who are not doing that. It's just the truth of the matter, right? You're going to be a lot more mentally sharper, right? A lot stronger, a lot more physically able to do the workload, like I said before. And you're going to build up endurance. Okay, you're going to be able to do this type of job for a long time. And you're going to be able to put food on the table for your family, your loved ones, which is, you know, the biggest thing at the end of the day, right? It's why we all do it. Okay, that's why we work and all that. So that's why I wanted to come out here and make this video. Don't think just because you're working a manual labor job that you can't work out, right? You want to stay in shape. Okay, it's going to lead to all the things I just said before, and you're going to live a much more fulfilling and purposeful life. All right, so guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like. All right, comment your thoughts if you're working trades too and you have similar opinions as the one I just expressed in this video, or if you have different ones, let me know down below. All right, I would really appreciate it. Would love to hear from you guys. As always, may God bless you all. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.